You may need to whisper it, but we are starting to think that Square Enix has an absolute zinger on its hands. There will be some long-time fans out there who will likely take issue with Final Fantasy XVI's broadly action-oriented approach, but after approximately an hour of play during a recent preview event, we walked away with our jaw on the floor. If this extraordinarily high-budget adventure can stick its landing, then it will be a Game of the Year contender for sure. We got the impression that the Japanese publisher is confident in what it's put together, and during a meaty presentation during our gameplay session, director Naoki Yoshida was in side-splittingly good spirits. In a swanky Shoreditch hotel, he, along with lead localizer Koji Fox, joked through an extensive presentation which offered a crash course in the world of Valisthea and the political intrigue that engulfs it. It's a Final Fantasy game, so we're afraid crystals once again will play a key role in the plot, but it's clear that the development team is aiming for a more adult story this time around. While influences weren't explicitly mentioned, it's obvious that the studio has been taking notes from huge western hits like The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt or God of War. Tonally, it's got a strong European fantasy flavour to it, but the anime is still very much there, bubbling beneath the surface. The story then, well, it's dense guys, so pull up a pew while we try to consolidate it all. As alluded to earlier, there are multiple crystals located around Valisthea, each one powering a different realm. Clive, the game's unfortunately named protagonist, hails from the Grand Duchy of Rosaria, but there are several other kingdoms in the game. The Holy Empire of Sanbreque is all-powerful, for example, while the Dalmatian Republic is a dusty trade outpost. All of the locations surround the Crystalline Dominion, a neutral territory which forms the political epicenter of the story. Effectively, all of the other territories have entered into an uneasy alliance, where they've all agreed not to encroach on this important central land. But when the power begins to slowly drain from each kingdom's crystal, it inevitably leads to a complete breakdown of the treaty between the different factions. The story itself will span decades as you follow Clive through his teens, 20s and even 30s, and you'll visit many of the different locations all around Valisthea. It's not, however, open world. Yoshida explained that the developer wanted to render each location in obsessive detail, and while there's ample opportunity to explore them, you'll effectively be poking around in vast zones rather than a sandbox that spans hundreds of kilometers. The main cast of characters you'll encounter over the course of the campaign are known as dominants, which means they effectively channel the power of elements, or icons as they're referred to in the fiction here. This forms the basis of both the party system and the skill tree, as you'll be utilising techniques like thunder and wind. All of the party members are AI controlled, but you can manually issue commands to your dog. And that brings us to our extremely impressive demo, some 5 or so hours into the game. Square Enix explained that aspects of this were tailor-made for preview purposes, so some elements may vary in the final build, such as the availability of certain techniques. Nevertheless, after a short medieval training sequence, which doubled as a tutorial, we found ourselves in the catacombs of a gothic Sanbreque dungeon, accompanied by the icon of Thunder's wielder, Sidolphus Telemann, this game's version of recurring character Sid. The writing and voice direction here is excellent. It's melodramatic in the manner that you would expect from a good anime, but it lacks that disconnected awkwardness that you may anticipate from contemporary Final Fantasy games, almost as though it's been written in English first, rather than translated from Japanese. As we alluded to before, Final Fantasy faithfuls, they may feel frustrated by this new direction, but it's abundantly obvious that the game is playing to Western tastes. The presentation is almost on par with a first-party PlayStation project, which is among some of the highest praise that we can shower on it. The motion capture is excellent, and all of the character designs are really appealing. Yoshida said the game will feature over 11 hours of cinematics, and while that would usually concern us in terms of Final Fantasy, the quality is so good here that we can't actually wait to kick back and enjoy them. Okay, let's get on to that moment-to-moment gameplay. Yoshida was eager to point out that Capcom's former combat director, Ryota Suzuki, was recruited for this project, and his background with character action titles like Devil May Cry 5 is evident in Final Fantasy XVI. Rather than the methodical precision of something like Elden Ring, skirmishes feel rapid like Bayonetta, with last minute dodges slowing time and combos combining melee weapons and spells. Effectively, you'll channel the power of different icons, unlocking hotkeys in Clive's arsenal, which you can toggle with L2. Each one has a primary ability like a grappling hook, which you can use to pull enemies towards you, as well as special moves attached to cooldowns. In the case of the Phoenix, the fire-based icon, you can launch a cyclone-styled spinning move attack, or with the Titan you can slam on the ground, deploying a devastating area of effect. Switching between these different skills does feel a little bit fiddly, but we're not sure whether that's a flaw of the game or the fact that we were just thrown in the deep end with the demo. Nevertheless, a fight with two Valkyries named Saparna and Charada felt distinctly God of War as we worked to crush their willpower before launching into our limit break and unleashing a deadly flurry of attacks. The particle effects filled the screen, and while we were playing at 30 FPS, Yoshida said a 60 FPS performance option will be available at launch. As we worked through the Sandbreak dungeon and to a cathedral rooftop, we faced the area's final boss, Benedicta Harmon, the wielder of Garuda, the icon of wind. Yoshida had talked during his presentation about creating a playable roller coaster ride, and this battle was filled with larger-than-life set-piece moments, many peppered with QTEs. While some may take issue with the lack of agency at times, it genuinely felt like a Dragon Ball Z fight with outrageous spectacle occurring at all times. And this is especially evident when the Titans eventually face off in a kaiju cage match. Transformed into Ifrit, you're tasked with beating down Garuda in a battle where the damage numbers are multiplied by a dozen. Ifrit can attack from range, but also throw punches and lunge in for suplexes. It does feel a little bit button bashy, and we suspect that there may be some scripting going on, as everyone else that we spoke to at the event said they finished the fight by the skin of their teeth, but it does look wild. We should also mention that it feels great on the DualSense 2, and clearly the console exclusivity has given Square Enix the freedom to explore all of the textures made possible through the PS5's pad. It even integrated the adaptive triggers during strenuous activities like lifting gates. One other note of interest is that the title doesn't have a difficulty option, but it does provide you with some optional items that you can equip to automate certain activities like dodging and blocks. All in all, we got the sense Final Fantasy XVI will divide the most hardcore franchise faithfuls. It's clearly got Western consumers in its crosshairs, and it's channeling the spirit of hugely popular franchises like The Witcher and God of War. But there's enough Final Fantasy in it to still set it apart, and the production values are off the scale. If the full game can strike the same kind of tone as our demo, then this is comfortably shaping up to be a Game of the Year candidate. Thank you to everyone for watching. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and if you'd like to see more from the world of PlayStation, then why not subscribe to us here on Push Square. Thanks again, and I'll catch you in the next one.